Welcome, everyone, to the first Mount Rushmore Zoom session. John Sanko here with four members of the Iona Volleyball team. We got Julia Stewart, Jamie Smith, Taylor Cole, and Jess Pallucci, all from their respective homes. Girls, how you guys doing?
We're doing well.
Doing good. Hanging in there.
Living the dream.
Living the dream, watching a lot of Netflix and chilling in bed. That's not a bad way to live life. But just first of all, just want to ask you guys, how are you guys dealing at home right now? Obviously, incredibly unique scenario. So I guess, Julia, we'll start with you first. What's this whole thing been like from your perspective?
It's actually shed some light on, things that I'm grateful for and appreciate, and not having that in my life right now. So I'm actually truly grateful for everything I have, and I'm ready to get back to it.
Jamie?
Everything's been good here. I've been spending a lot of time with my family, becoming a lot closer with them, especially my brother. And I'm trying to stay in shape and stay on top of online classes as much as I can. So that's it.
Taylor, how's the online learning been for Iona? How have they helped you through that process?
Iona's done a pretty good job. There's a lot of communication going back and forth between professors and students through like emails, and there's a lot of tutorials on Blackboard and whatnot. And Zoom definitely helps because you're able to see your classmates even though you can't physically see them. So makes things a little easier with the video conferencing, trying to keep it as normal as possible.
Taylor, how are you doing in Long Island?
Pretty good over here. I'm really lucky to live in a family where everyone is or was a D1 athlete, which means we have the equipment to kind of make it a little easier to be quarantined, and then I have people to play with and keep growing my game with in my brother and sister because they also play. And I guess same as Jamie, like Iona's done a pretty good job like giving us the tools we need to like transition online. Obviously not the same as learning in a classroom and getting to grind with your team every day, but trying to make the best of it.
And Jessica, how's sunny Florida? You might have the best situation out of all of us in Florida.
I definitely have to agree with Julia. It shed a lot of light on the things that I'm definitely grateful for, which is living in sunny Florida and being able to go on walks and enjoying the weather and enjoying family time. So it's been an unfortunate circumstance, but I think we're going to come on the other side of this as better people. So
Agreed.
I definitely agree with you with that. Some major lessons to be learned by everybody with this whole thing going on. So you guys are here today as the first trial of this Mount Rushmore concept. And so for people who don't know the idea of Mount Rushmore, Mount Rushmore is the four famous presidents, right? Everyone, they're iconic. And so what we're going to do here today is do a draft of Mount Rushmore of volleyball coaches' sayings that you've heard in your lifetime of volleyball. It can be from any coach. They can be inspirational. They can be funny. The idea is these four just stick out to you the most. When you think of your best four coaches' phrases you've heard, these are the four that stick out. Now, the thing is, once a phrase is picked, say from a former Iona coach or a current coach, S.A. Velez-Perez, that pick is taken and you guys cannot put it on yours. So a little bit of competition here to make sure you want to get the ones that you like.
Mhm.
All right. So I did the random draft order for this. So the order is Jess Pallucci will go first. Jamie Smith goes second. Julia Stewart goes third. And then Taylor Cole goes fourth. But she'll go first in the second round as this is a snake draft. Does everyone understand the rules? Are we good to go?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Let's have some fun. So Jessica Pallucci, you are up first. Round one, your first pick on the Mount Rushmore of coaches' phrases.
all right, I think I fall asleep at night to this saying. I'm sure everyone else does too, but move your feet.
Oh, that's a good one. I was going to say
That's
that
a good one.
Where did you hear that first? What's your first memory of hearing "move your feet"?
Oh my gosh, probably from like middle school volleyball where we're wearing like shorts down to our knees. We have like painter's knee pads on, and all we want to do is fall on the floor to show our parents that we're trying hard. But when the reality, you just move your feet.
I think everyone agrees that's a pretty good selection. So with the first pick, Jess Pallucci goes "move your feet." Jamie Smith, first pick, or your pick of round one.
I'm going to go with hit the floor. Because when I was younger, first starting to play, and I'm sure all the girls can relate to this, like everyone was afraid to like dive on the floor. That was like the big thing. You didn't want to hurt yourself. But then it literally got to the point where coaches would literally be like, if you don't hit the floor, you're running or stuff like that. So it's all good fun. So hit the floor is my first one.
All right, so generic question for all you guys, if you could answer right now really quickly. What's the most satisfying feeling? Diving on the floor to get a dig, a fantastic spike, or a great block?
I guess it depends.
I think
Depends on your
I think
position.
diving. I think getting a really sick dig.
Yeah.
Julia says sick dig. Taylor says sick dig.
I think sick dig as well, but also the hype of a really good stuff block, the celebration of it is one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely say so too. Like diving is also like, showy and frilly and fun, but it's always nice when like we can jam it down their throats too.
All right, so Jamie Smith, your first selection was hit the floor. Julia Stewart, you are up in the first round.
I would have to say one thing that I've heard a lot of coaches say is, did you count the balls? Which is every single practice for most coaches, you have to sit there or stand there and you have to count every single ball. And then you have to remember that number for the following practice, and no one ever remembers it. So it's like you're always on a hunt for volleyball.
Ball, yeah.
And you guys love diving underneath the Heinz Center bleachers to pick up every single
my
loose ball.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Julia had like a spot in the bleachers that she would stand and she would like pretend she had binoculars. This would be on like hour 3 of practice where we're actually losing it. And she would like stand and look and she would find every ball. She would always find it.
I would. And I kept a document of how many balls we had each day.
No, you didn't. Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Julia Stewart gets the most organized on the team. All right, so Taylor Cole, your first pick of the first round.
All right, I'm going to go a little serious to start. Mine is from my high school volleyball coach, and it's want the win more than you fear the loss. Because volleyball is a very mental game, and I'm a very cerebral person. So I think that's one that psychologically, like, grown my game a lot, playing, like, with passion and drive more than letting fear in.
That's a very good inspirational one. Very good. I'm sure your high school coach would like to hear you say that too. That sticks with you. All right, so Taylor, you get to go again. You get the first pick of the second round.
All right, my second pick is going to be former Iona coach Patrick Santiago. You can.
Classic.
Which was screamed at you during crazy plays or like something ridiculous, and it sort of means send it. Like it epitomizes effort and kind of the hectic nature of volleyball, and is also just something that became kind of cry for us during games that we would yell at each other, and so it's motivational as well, and it also just brings up a lot of laughs and good memories.
All right, there we go. That's a good one. So Taylor Cole's first 2 picks, want the win more than you fear the loss. I got that right?
Yes.
And then you can.
Yes.
Very simple.
Yes.
All right, Julia Stewart, your pick in the second round.
I would have to say get on the line.
Oh, no, that doesn't sound very good at all.
And most coaches for volleyball, because I know it's different with every sport, but it's usually run 5s. So it's like 5 times across and it's sprints. And they really get to you after you're trying to do, a challenge and you don't do it after 13 tries. And now you're doing, how many ever sprints. So
13 tries, you had to get on the line 13 times?
I think a couple seasons back, we tried to do a challenge where we were on the line maybe 30 times.
What challenge was this?
What was it?
It was the pepper or the
5 drill. 4 5 drill.
4 to 5 drill, yeah. And
Yeah.
we tried to get it, and we tried to get 100 and what was it? 100.
There was a very, very high goal.
Yeah, a very high goal of the number we were supposed to
Basically,
get.
you just had to volley it back and forth. It sounds easier than it actually is, but with like a setter and a hitter on each side and a defender, and you had to get a certain number in a row, and it was like up in the 80s. And let's just say it took us a decent amount of time to complete. But
yeah,
we did.
At the end, our coach at the time, Coach Pat, kicked the ball into the ceiling. We were all like, what happened? Oh my God, we didn't get the number. This is so bad. And then he takes the ball, goes away, and then he comes back with pieces of the ball. So we all
no.
the ball, which that was really cool.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it was really cool. I think we all still have them too.
I have mine on the wall right there, actually.
I still have mine in my locker at school.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a good memory then. Built up your cardio that day too.
Oh, for sure.
All right, Jamie Smith, you had hit the floor in the first round. What's your second pick?
I'm going to build off of Taylor's Patrick Santiago quote, and I'm going to go with sure.
Knew it.
Good pick. Good pick.
And basically background before that, behind that rather, is just like, it kind of applies to like anything positive in a way. So if like Jess made a sick dig or whatever, Coach Pat would be like, sure, and just like bring energy. And it was just like a quirky thing that he would say, but that's always stuck with me because he said it when I played for him with club and then throughout college too. So.
And it means you're doing well if you're hearing it a lot too. So that's a good phrase to hear.
We heard it a decent amount. I wouldn't say all the time, but
High expectations.
exactly.
All right, Jess Pallucci, you have 2 picks in a row here to end the second round. What is your pick?
My first pick probably has to do with more of the passing round, but when your coach asks you, where are you facing? You're kind of like, oh yeah, you're right. You're right, coach. I'm not facing in the right direction. So that's something you definitely don't want to hear, but definitely have heard that quite a few times.
So positioning is really big for you on you 2 picks. You have move your feet and where are you facing?
Yes. Yep.
So positioning is really big for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what is your first pick in the third round?
Okay, third round. This is something we always like hoped for at the beginning of practice when our coach said, he kind of stared at us and said, yeah, let's play tennis.
Yeah, tennis.
I think we'd all would cheer and scream and run, sprint to our respective teams that were supposed to be random every time, but we always kept the same team.
So explain the tennis version of volleyball for those who don't know it.
So it's like tennis and ping pong. They're basically the same thing. There's 2 teams on each side of the court, and usually one person on the court at a time. And like normal tennis, you get like one contact back and forth. So it's different than regular volleyball, obviously. So like you're not trying to get it straight up in the air, but you're being more aggressive with it. And we have many laughs from tennis. I think we've all made fools of ourselves, but it's definitely been fun. We've been diving out for balls. We usually get bloody in like the first 5 minutes of practice, but that's like definitely my very fond memories of volleyball, tennis.
Who was the greatest tennis player on the team?
Oh, me!
No way!
Nope, incorrect.
100%. People were either really mad or really happy that I was on their team.
Because Jess is a very skilled athlete. She's very talented, but sometimes she gets very excited.
I'm actually going to say Taylor's the best tennis player.
Taylor is definitely, she knows where to not. She's very strategic. Like, we will hit the back wall, but she will let it trickle over the net.
Exactly.
Ah,
Not the speed, it's the spot, you know?
it's true. It's the placement. It's the placement. All right, so Jamie Smith, you are up in the third round. Thus far, you have hit the floor and sure.
Hit the floor and sure. Okay, so third round, I'm going to go back to high school as well because I loved high school. And my coach used to always say, it's actually one of my favorite quotes too, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. And that can apply to like any sport, obviously, but I think that really applied to not just my high school team because we were really undersized compared to a lot of teams, but at school at Iona, like our team, my freshman year and sophomore year, and even junior year, I mean, we had a little bit of height this year, but we've always been this team that's really small and like 5'10" nation, like that's it. Nobody really 6 feet, but except a few girls. And you know, you gotta scrap when you're the small team. And I think that like that quote especially just shows that it doesn't really matter how physically big you are and whatnot, but if you're willing to compete and fight, then you're gonna get good results.
Yeah, it's like that chip on your shoulder. You put that on your shoulder right away from the get-go, so you don't need that extra motivation.
Exactly.
All right, so that's a good motivational one. Julia Stewart, you are up. Thus far, you have, did you count the balls and get on the line?
Yes. I'd have to say something that I've heard, from my high school coach, my club coaches, and my college coaches is early is on time is late, and late is just unacceptable. And I feel like this is just like a part of the volleyball culture. I mean, I'm sure other sports go by it as well, but like for a volleyball player, if you're not at practice 30 minutes before the 30 minutes when you're supposed to be there, like you're not on time. So
I have a sign that says that in my house.
yep. So I feel like that's a really big one.
And that's tough for you guys. You guys had the morning practices. You guys had the 6 a.m. practice every day at the Heinz Center.
Yep.
So we had to be there we wanted treatment. We had to be there 30 minutes before, and then 30 minutes before the treatment started.
Yeah.
What time does your alarm go off when you have early morning practice?
Jamie's goes off at 5.
Jamie's up first.
Well, yeah, it depends. I like to enjoy eat my
Mine
breakfast,
just cut out.
hydrate, and then slowly stroll over to the Heinz Center. But if you're like Taylor and Julia and Jess was kind of with me in the early boat of things, but Julia and Tay were a little on the later side.
Yeah.
Actually, like 5:30, my alarm. That was the last alarm.
I was 4:45, roll out of bed, grab a bar, get to the Heinz Center at 6 a.m. Good to go.
All right. So Taylor, you're up now. These are your last 2 picks. You have the final pick of the 3rd round and the first pick of the 4th.
All right. 3rd round, I will go with, I'm not sure which of my parents have said this first to me. Both of my parents are volleyball coaches. They run a volleyball club, and so they've not only been coaches of teams I've been on, but they've more or less been coaching me on the side at every phase of my game. And I don't know which of them said it first because they both drilled it in my head so much, but it's the only person who will limit what you can do is you. I think that was both to be motivational and both because they know me so well, and know that me and most players, when you question yourself is when your game starts to falter. So I think it's mostly about encouraging confidence and not letting yourself get in your own way.
You're a very inspirational person with your quotes. I think you have the gung-ho nature with your quote selections.
Thanks.
All right, so your first 3 picks, you got want the win more than you fear the loss, you can, and the only person who will limit what you can do is you.
Mm-hmm.
So now what is your 4th and final selection?
My 4th and final selection, we're going to go a little less serious and take a good Coach SAE. Where are you going? I think I've only had him as a coach for a year, but I think everybody who's had him has heard Coach scream in his accent at us, "Where are you going?" Whether it's you're not where you're supposed to be on the court, you're still moving in defense. That's just his favorite expression for figure it out, be where you're supposed to be. And it's definitely his most quotable coaching line.
Yeah.
I hear that on the sidelines when I'm next to him, so I know exactly what you're talking about because he's mumbling it underneath his breath, even if he's not screaming it out loud.
Oh, yeah.
Where is she going? Where is she going? I don't know where she's going. All right, so Taylor, those are your 4 picks. Appreciate that. Julia Stewart, your final pick in the 4th round.
I think I'm gonna go something with what Coach Azai said as well, just because he was my last coach ever, so I feel like it's due. When he would tell us that we can eat bread, but we can't eat bread.
Can you explain what's behind that?
Elaborate.
Basically, like there's no explanation really. We still don't know. We'll tell you when we find out.
I say the international man of mystery. You can eat bread, but you can't eat bread.
Right. So
right?
I guess he was
That's literal. That's not a metaphor.
Yeah.
So I guess he was leaving it up to us to decide whether we wanted to do more cardio or not.
Wasn't the hashtag for your championship season "Get That Bread" or "Eat That Bread" or something like that?
That was a couple years.
Was it a couple years ago?
Coach.
Well, 2 years ago is Little Dogs Gotta Eat. That's what.
Yeah.
We can't just define it on one saying. We had many different
There
sayings.
were many sayings. Gaels 18 was a big one.
We had a lot of things that we said that were pretty absurd, but they motivated us, so it worked.
How many of them revolved around eating and bread?
A few.
Yeah. Dinner. That's
Big foodies, big food people.
Yeah, huge foodies.
Listen, I'm the same exact way, and especially now more during the quarantine because now you just eat when you're bored. So the exact same thing. All right, Jamie Smith, you're up. Your final selection.
Final selection. Let's see. I'm gonna go generic. Kind of applies to all the coaches I've had, but most coaches, no matter what sport you say, have said to me, be aggressive with like everything that I do. So in volleyball, like being aggressive with hitting and like letting my arm go and whatnot. And even goes back to like CYO basketball days of like driving in the hoop and stuff like that, or like taking a charge. I feel like it just applies to every sport.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It's like playing with confidence. Be aggressive and kind of trust yourself doing it.
Exactly.
As Taylor's quote says, the only person you can limit yourself is you. So there you go. Be aggressive.
Exactly. That's right.
All right, Jess Pallucci, the final pick of the Mount Rushmore draft of volleyball coaches' sayings is yours.
Oh my goodness.
Final pick, suspense.
Drum roll.
All right, well, I was debating on whether to go serious or funny, but I think we all kind of need a little humor in our lives these days, especially when we're playing tennis or Queen of the Court, which is big. You probably hear no touch like once every 2 minutes.
That is true.
Bunch of liars, though. There's always a touch.
Like not telling the truth, but it's always good.
Well, that's like when the ball goes sailing out of bounds and the blocker's like, no touch. I didn't touch that at all. Exactly.
Get a little handshake to it.
Exactly. And it's all about how much you sell it, because we don't have instant replay in our conference. So if you touch it and it skims you, they don't see it. Not your fault.
We won't go to replay either on ESPN. We won't do that either. We won't show that it hit your hand. No.
Exactly. You wouldn't do it like that.
No, we wouldn't do you dirty like that.
Usually when it gets super heated in tennis, I'll let's just say if I totally shanked the ball, say no touch, that ball was out.
Like this.
All right. So before we wrap up here, I'm just going to read everyone's selection so everyone can correct me if I typed it in wrong, but just so everyone kind of knows what they said. Jess Pallucci, your selections were move your feet, where are you facing, yeah, let's play tennis, and no touch.
Yep. Pretty good.
Pretty good. Jamie Smith, hit the floor. Sure. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. And be aggressive.
Ooh.
Take it easy. Take it easy.
Julia Stewart, did you count the balls?
Yes.
Get on the line. Early is on time is late is unacceptable. You can eat bread, but you can't eat bread. I think we can all agree Julia's are the funniest of all four.
Thank you.
And Taylor Cole's, want the win more than you fear the loss. You can. The only person who will limit what you can do is you. And where are you going?
What are you going?
Where are you going?
Where are you going?
Should I put with an accent in when I make the graphic to just make sure to get that punctuation in there with the accent?
Yeah, make sure.
When
A Puerto Rican accent.
When he asks you where you're going on the court, it's like, where are you going? And then if he asks you, are you going to Starbucks? It's like, where are you going?
Does he have the squint of the eyes too whenever you do it? Where are you going?
A little bit.
Going.
Yeah, the eyes go. They pop out a little bit.
A little pop, maybe a little squint, maybe a little foot stomp if you're especially in the wrong spot.
Hands on hips.
Hands on hips is a big one, I think.
Or if you're having a conversation after practice and you have to go to class because it's your scheduled class time, but you're
Where are you going?
Where are you going? Where are you going? He's sad that you have to leave and go to class. They're like, Coach, love talking to you, but we're student athlete.
That's right. The education comes first. Well, again, I really appreciate you guys coming out and doing this first ever Mount Rushmore draft volleyball Zoom session. So I really thank you guys for coming out and spread the word on this. We're going to put out a poll on social media, see who people thought had the best coaches' phrases. I'm sure people have some write-in candidates too when they see everyone and ones that you guys missed. So be safe, spread Gael Nation, spread the happiness and the humor, which you guys always do. And thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danko.
Thanks, Danko. Appreciate it.
Thank you.